Here we go. Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
That'll be cool.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, right here. And right over there, John, our resident millennial. John, am I coming through?
Right.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Ma, am I coming through?
Yes, but for some reason you have the 12-hour marathon stream to benefit Toys for Tots.
I don't understand what you're saying.
The banner thing
Which
on the
banner?
bottom of the.
There's two banners rolling.
Yeah, the Christmas ones.
Right, because I'm going to make
Yeah.
sure that thing's rolling between now and December 6th, so people do not forget that we're having a charity stream
Fair
live
enough.
here on the Generational Gap on December 6th.
Sunday. Or
That's right.
Friday.
So whether or not folks like it or not, they're going to see that banner. You'll also notice there's a little bit of holiday decorations gone up. I'll decorate more as we go on, but I want to set a tone. Christmas is coming. Toys for Tots.
It's not even Thanksgiving yet. You're
John,
the worst kind of
John,
person.
we have three and a half weeks until we're going to be doing our live stream. And it's going to be a Christmas stream. It's going to be a 12-hour marathon. Got to get in the mood. You need time to get in the mood, get in the spirit. I want people thinking about this. It's got to happen.
Cameron in the chat. What's up, dude?
Is Cameron in the chat? I have to
Cameron
watch for
is in
the
the
chat.
chat.
Let's see how fast. Let's make sure Restream is kicking me some love. There he is. Good evening, humans. I always enjoy being referred to as a human. If I, otherwise I just feel like a beast.
We're kind of low on the stream, but I guess that'll be okay.
What do you mean, kind of low on the stream?
Our volume going up.
Well, I've got the desktop audio kicked up, so maybe I'm going to have to figure out what's going on. Now, I can kick mine up. I can't really kick yours up because something's going on with the audio that's coming from you, I think. That's what we've determined, so we're going to have to figure that out. But I kept mine down a little bit to make sure and allow for you so I don't drown you out, as is wont to happen occasionally. Maybe pick up the volume a little. I don't know. Maybe suck it up and bring the mic a little closer for the night until we can get a little more stabilized on that.
All right, yeah. I'll bring the mic a little bit closer.
Now, see, right there, you sound
a little bit
like
closer.
You are Dr. Love right
there. Oh, yeah. That's right, baby. Time for the smooth hour of love.
Now, be careful. You broke up there. You got so smooth you broke.
Oh, yeah. The mic can't handle this level of sexy. That's right.
No, I think it was just getting
bogged
down in the fucking beard. I would think it was bogged down in the beard.
My pop cover smells like cigarette still.
Yeah. See, now you're coming in. You sounded much better to me, like right there where you had it saying your pop cover and stuff.
I'll keep it right there.
Yeah. So I would check. I maybe check on the directional of that. I don't know if that's got anything to do with it. I know that.
Oh no, it does.
Since you had it here playing.
Is that better?
Huh?
Is that better?
Actually, it does. It sound like it might be a little bit better.
Are you sure? Because
you're coming in. There's more clarity to you. You don't sound.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm hearing some more clarity. So anyway, John, as we've already discussed, because you want to knock, my design elements. We've got that 12-hour stream coming up on December 6th. I feel like our announcements are a little light now that we've done the Halloween Spooktacular, but I want it to be known. The GoFundMe account is still active. We raised $155 for St. Jude's from the Halloween Spooktacular, but I'm going to leave that thing up for at least another week. And if we can drive more to it, I'm excited about that, and if not, that's fine. Money is money. We can send to them, but that's still available. You'll see the link to the GoFundMe down in the description, whether you're here, whether you're on DLive. All of those places should have a link in the description. Hopefully, I've got to work around. I'm still playing with this multi-streaming thing. DLive just seems to play weirdly sometimes with me.
I want to see something real quick. Well, we were only on for like 2 hours, so
Which
that's
2 hours? No,
almost,
we were on for a lot longer than that.
yeah, I know, but we only got donations during the first half, so we got $77.50 per hour. That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's good money. I wish
Yeah,
I was making that much
yeah.
money.
If we can do that on the 12-hour stream, I'll be happy.
Oh
Uh,
hell yeah!
so
Well, that one will be a lot better because we'll be in separate places, so OBS probably won't crash. Hopefully, thank
right.
God. God, that was horrible. That ruined the whole night for you, especially.
Yeah, it was a horrible night at that point. Once I realized that I wasn't the audio was being a kerfunkle to fix.
Yeah.
And who
So
knows? And who knows? I mean, some of this volume issue that you were having tonight might be repercussions from that. Still,
could
um,
be.
yeah, changing the whole setup. It's one of those things where switching to multiple people in the studio is not just a quick and easy plug and play.
Yeah.
OBS has to be like it doesn't know, right? It's like you got to tell me everything, and you got to
Right.
set everything. Now, when I switch over to Streamlabs OBS, which I'm hoping to do here in the near future, but I'm still having nightmares about Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty
I want to
bad.
make sure I've got all my rows in a duck. So
But the part where we had Cameron on was awesome.
yeah, everything worked fine. It seemed. I think the echo was still there, just nobody was really
Yeah.
complaining about it. And then I realized, ironically, or not ironically, but oddly enough, after he left, I realized that we were having an issue getting him on headphones at the same time as everything else. I
Oh
realized
well, yeah.
this tool that you left here that night
Shit. Yeah.
would have solved that problem
Yeah. Probably.
because I could have just jacked, multiple ones into this because this works in
That's why I
multiple
got
ways. Well, I was thinking you had told me it was for mics, but I think it works either way.
No, you just kept thinking it was Mike's, but no, it's definitely a headphone
Oh,
splitter.
you definitely told me it was
Yeah.
mics.
I never said that.
Everything I remember you telling me was that it was mics. And
Well,
what I remember is more important than what actually happened. This is the key ingredient to all of that. So, anyway, speaking of which, folks, if you like what you're hearing, please make sure and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. You can find us here. You can find us on DLive. Dabbling around over on Periscope. We're dabbling around over on Twitch. We're dabbling around on Smashcast.
Yeah.
We're dabbling around on Picardo. We're starting to see if we can't spread out a little bit because, nothing's better than John and I spread out.
right. When in doubt, spread them out.
Yeah.
As we learned on Halloween.
Yeah. And yeah, John, the screen's gonna get more and more dressed up. I love Christmas, so you're gonna be puking Christmas by the time the holiday actually does come around. But I am gonna jazz up and get that Christmas vibe going for this
Listen,
Toys for Tots drive.
as long as there's no shitty like Christmas music, I'm fine with that.
Oh, there will be Christmas music.
No, they won't.
Now, whether or not you qualify it as shitty, well, that's up to you. But
Oh,
there's
it'll
a
be
good
shitty.
chance. There's a good chance. Well, I mean, think about it like this, John. What Christmas music can you use that's not copyright protected, right? It's got to just all be, random Christmas creations. I mean, it's illegal to use music. I don't know. I don't know what you got to do, what you got to go through to get like copyrights. I see people do it, like don't people do it on YouTube all the time? Or are they just buying rights at different times when they need it?
I don't think they're buying rights. Um,
They're just
I
paying
don't
a
know. Maybe
fine
they
when it
just don't.
happens. What? I don't know.
Well, I mean, so what'll happen is we'll get a copyright claim, which means that like any money that you make off that stream, off the ads on the stream, will go to whoever holds the copyright.
All the money.
But if you're not monetized, then there's no problem.
But
There's
you
no
remember?
money.
But do you remember the one that we had when we weren't monetized? We used a little bit from AC/DC, and they said they
Yeah.
were gonna pull the string.
No, I don't think so. I don't
Yeah,
think they were going to pull the string.
I was pretty sure that they said that it would have to be removed because I think that's their option if we're not monetized. If nobody's going to get any money from it, you just got to pull
Oh,
it.
dude, we're at 46 likes for Jane now.
Well, that's good.
Epic.
Jane is a
Very
popular
popular.
gal. She is.
Yes.
If you want, I can bring her out at any given time.
Cameron says, if I can score a mic and a webcam in time, would you guys like a Santa Claus quiz on your 12-hour stream? Yeah, because he was telling me he wanted to do it from his house, so you wouldn't have to do like
No,
in
no, that'll be
studio
fine. He'll
setup and
just come
stuff.
through
Yeah,
Discord. But
yeah,
under
yeah.
one caveat, you
No
must
commie propaganda
you must be dressed as a Christmas elf.
or Santa.
No, he's not. He won't. He wouldn't make a good Santa. He's a thin guy. He's not a big.
I guess he does
He's not a
have
big
elfish
jolly,
features.
but he does. He makes a good. He would make a good high elf if you were, going to LARP.
Oh God,
You know.
that's one of the few things I can't be nerdy enough to do. I can't be a weeb, and I can't LARP. There's just no way I can do it.
So,
I have too much self-respect.
have you never done any kind of cosplay?
No,
Really?
really,
Wow. But have you
Yeah.
ever really gone to any conventions or anything?
no.
Oh,
I don't do community stuff.
I know. It's a sad. Oh, unless you've got to, run away, and ditch all your friends to go and kiss Sargon's ass.
Well, yeah, that's one person.
What? I'm sorry.
That's one person. That's not like a community thing. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe in the way that there were other
Oh
people
yeah,
who
you were
to
there
kiss his ass
networking,
too.
weren't you?
I was. That's where we met Anavoltus.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that counts. It wasn't like an official thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of like, come have lunch. I'll be here at
Yeah.
this time.
Keep telling yourself.
I will.
He says he'd make a sexy high
I
elf.
certainly
Also,
didn't
there
cosplay.
will only be a little commie. Okay, look, no commie propaganda. If we want commie
Right.
propaganda on the show, we'll get Jay on here. And
Oh God.
yeah, that would be fun.
He
we
started.
should
He started trying to talk to me again recently.
get him on the 12-hour
Nah.
stream. Let's get him on the 12-hour stream.
Let's
And
have him
let's have a
debate
group
somebody.
we'll even
No,
let's
no. Let's have him debate somebody.
Well, okay, that's fine. Anna
Yeah.
Voltus. Would that be a good debate?
Yeah, that could be cool.
I think
Well,
Anna
I'll get in
Voltus
tou- I'll
might.
get in
I think
touch
he
with
might
him.
shred him.
Well, Jay has a master's degree in philosophy, and Anna Voltus dabbles in philosophy. So, I don't know.
But I've listened to the two of them talk.
I mean, Jay's a well-spoken guy.
He is. But here's the thing. The difference between the two is I think Jay leans a little more towards politician speak. Like, like if you ask him a question, he'll just kind of slide through it without really getting to an answer. Like, and more than likely will take it on a tangent away from it. He'll what is that? Gaslight the whole thing. To where,
He's a huge gaslighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas Anna Voltus is not, and I think that's where Anna Voltus would have the upper hand in a debate if we were,
Maybe.
if they were to debate about communism, the pros and cons of communism. Is that I think Anna Voltus could see, could cut right through that gaslighting. You know what I mean?
It is
Potentially.
really difficult. It is really difficult to like back Jay into a corner on something. It's
Right.
really hard to like nail him down. Cause
Well,
just
he
kinda wiggles out
greases
of it.
himself up before any
Yeah.
conversation, so he's real
It's true.
slippery, right?
Yeah.
It's and that to me is what you really truly gain from an education in philosophy is this way of delivering information without ever having to give absolutes.
Ooh, Midget B saying that's not a good idea. Why do you think that? I'm interested as to why.
Don't think that's a good idea.
I mean, he's the one who introduced me to Jay. He's known Jay since college, so he would know better. But I don't know. I would like to get him back on the show and
I
talk his
don't-
nonsense.
Well, now knowing our audience and knowing that I'm expecting we're going to have quite a few of our people out there on the 12-hour stream. I don't know. Could Jay handle the backlash? Because there's going to be some real trolling going on if there's a communist in the house. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not from us, but I mean, the audience itself is going to be trolling that hard.
I'll just not tell him that the chat's there. I don't know. Because last time he was on, we were doing audio only recorded episodes.
Right.
Jay would probably consider it a waste of time, and I would agree. I mean, I'm sure he might consider it a waste of time. I might be able to get him to
Uh,
do it.
I would
But
think any communist would want to consistently spread their ideology. I mean, that's kind of
I
a
mean, it
communist
wasn't.
mindset, isn't it? Like we want, you know, we want everyone to.
What do you mean? Wait, midget. What do you mean? I just kind of pulled Anna Voltis out of my ass. I'm not sure. You mean like just saying, "Oh, well, he's," I guess us, our ass, collective ass. Well, I mean, that was just
Oh
an idea.
no,
It was
no.
to pick
There's a very
somebody.
specific reason why I suggested Anna Voltis, because Anna
Yeah, I mean,
Voltis, A, we've had him on the show and had an opportunity to speak with him. B, we've had him with us in person and hung out with him
yeah,
for an entire evening, got to know him even better. And then third, Anna Voltis also has his own ideology. He has his own plan that he would like to see have happen. His own idea of how our government should be ran, our system should be ran, as it were. So it would be a debate about conflicting ideologies, and I, I that's not pulling anything out of my ass. That's straightforward. Good reason for having Anna Voltis there, because you were actually going to debate him or discuss the difference
yeah. We were
between
supposed to debate.
libertarianism and his
Well,
ideology, or what sets his
no, no,
ideology
no,
apart from it, right?
no, no, no. We were supposed to debate if justice is derived from authority.
But he did well. One of the things, but it had been suggested that you two get on and talk about the difference between his ideology, how his ideology
Yeah,
differs from libertarianism,
that's true. We did
specifically.
talk about that. We just never
Yeah.
really.
So I mean, he's got a
And
mindset for that kind of thing.
he doesn't have a PhD, midget. He's got the master's. I mean, there's not a huge amount of difference, but I mean, there is a
Um,
difference.
well, to be honest with you, they both seem equally educated to me. I mean, with the fact that Jade doesn't necessarily land on a point unless he like actually has the bone to gnaw on, and
Yeah,
he's got a point that he is sure to win, right? Like if it's an assured thing, he's direct into it and he stands on it. But when it's when you try and
yeah,
get something else out of him, I mean, he's evasive. It's not to say he's not educated, but you know. I believe I've listened to Annabelle. I even listened to him on Nathaniel's stream, Nathaniel
yeah.
Slattery Bear stream the other day. Fucking educated on religion and religious ideology and different religions. I mean, it's the boy reads. He likes to read. He's
Yeah.
made that clear.
I mean,
So
dude speaks three languages,
right.
like
I
fluently.
mean,
I imagine.
I
Like, holy
mean,
shit.
I wouldn't consider him an amateur from the aspect other than he doesn't have a formal degree. He doesn't have
As
all of
far as
his
we know,
college under his belt. Actually, I
yeah.
think he's not done with college. I
I
know
don't know. I have no
he's
idea.
going to school, but I don't think he's done with it.
Yeah.
So, I don't see it as an unequal battle. It just depends on, you know,
I mean, how about this? I'll just reach out to both of them, see if I can work something out, and if so, awesome. If not, then we'll figure something else out.
I mean, when it comes to philosophers, I'll be honest with you. I think most of them are full of shit. I
I
mean,
don't think they're full of shit. I think they're just useless for the most
well,
part.
right. I mean, and
Out of all the
I guess that's
like
more what I mean.
every time I've read like philosophy, it's like, okay, you've got ideas and those are cool and you're expressing them very well, but like what else do philosophers do with their life?
Right.
Like not much. They don't produce anything other than books or and now in the the newer age, YouTube videos and stuff. But they don't really like give anything to society for the most part.
And here's what and this goes back to when we had Jay on the show before, and this has always stuck out. And this is unfortunately this is what I judge Jay by. It's because I judge people by their actions, by their words,
Oh,
what they
shit.
say.
Hang on,
Right?
we've got R-rated conservative
What's
on
up,
D Live.
RRC?
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to you too,
So
sir.
does that mean we're coming through good on D Live then?
Yeah, let us know how we're
Is
doing
it a
over
shit
there.
show on D Live too? Um, so when we had Jay on, this is what stuck out. He's a
Mhm.
philosopher and he's a communist. And if he was on an island with three people, and one of them was a surfer, one of them made bread, and there was him, the philosopher, he
Yep.
believes that his job, his part that he adds to society in that three people on a desert island, is to sit in his hut and think all day, while the surfer is out on the waves surfing. And between the two of them, they are adding to the community, while the person who bakes bread is making bread for everyone.
Right. Yeah, he was saying that the surfer adds like value to the
Entertainment
community
value.
because entertainment, right? Because it's something nice to sit on the beach and watch. And well, that's not exactly inaccurate, but it doesn't really produce anything. It doesn't do anything for society. I
Right.
mean, that's why the labor theory of value is complete garbage.
Right.
Because
And
it doesn't
then
matter
and
how much
then
labor you put into something. If it's shit, it's still shit, and it's valueless.
right. And then Jay, as the philosopher on that island, what does he bring? He brings profound thought to the
Yeah.
mix. That's what he adds to society in that three-person society. And that in a nutshell is always how I will picture Jay, because that mindset of communism.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want? I mean, this is like
Yeah.
this is why communism dies. I mean, it's because you know I
Yeah.
don't
You can
know.
only have so
It
many loafers.
yeah, I mean, it's like that kind of ideology is just outlandish to me. Mixed with being a philosopher. I mean, really, what job is there for a philosopher out there? I mean, it's not
Teaching
to mock it,
philosophy.
right? Teaching
That's it.
philosophy
Yeah,
and,
that's
and
it.
and writing books and hoping
Right.
they sell, right?
Yeah.
That's really all there is to it. I mean, yes, I understand that some philosophers, if they have the right ideology, they could start a movement, but I don't even believe that philosophers really want to be behind, like the driving force behind a movement or the leader of a movement. They just want to be the ideology behind it. They want to supply the ideology. They don't want
Right.
to take the
I
bull
mean,
by the horn.
even someone like Ron Paul, who really like kind of, um, I guess re-kickstarted the beating heart of libertarianism. He was, he was in government and then did philosophy on the side, like as a hobby, as opposed to as like his only job.
Right?
So I mean, at least he was not really bringing something to society, but he was, working to bring about his ideals, which I think is a good thing. But short of him, I mean,
I mean, did Marx do
um,
anything like that? With
hell no. Marx was the worst of all of them.
right,
He
right,
mooched off. He mooched off of his friend who owned a factory, and then tried to tell his friend how to run that factory, even though he had never stepped foot in a factory in his whole life.
And Midget says he has other abilities the society would certainly take from him according to said abilities. And but that was the thing, and I asked him
What a
that.
loose butthole.
Right, I asked him very. I remember asking him. I said, "So you wouldn't do anything else outside of that job of philosophy?" And he's like, "No, because we have somebody to break bread. Bake bread. I wouldn't need to do anything else other than what I am good at. This is what I would be bringing to the table."
Yeah.
And I mean, because it's like, well, do you want something to go with the bread? Somebody's going to go find water? I mean, who's going to do these other things? Who's going to build structures? And he's like, well, the rest of the community will take care of that.
Right.
And I'm like, but there's only three of you, and one of you's surfing, one of you's
Well,
thinking,
yeah.
and somebody's busy baking bread. I mean,
Yeah.
who's
That's
doing
the
what?
funny thing is if you go to like one of these like communist forums somewhere, or God forbid a Reddit subreddit, um it's funny when they always talk about, oh, what jobs would you want to do after the revolution, and not one of them will say, community gardener or something like that. Like none of them are going to be farmers.
Right?
So it's like, who's going to make the food, guys?
Right?
I mean, they're all going to be, logistics or,
Right. I'd be willing to bet there's nothing on that list that's going to fall under the category of sweat labor.
yeah, probably not.
No.
Yeah,
What would be funny if if you don't think Anavoltus, which I think Anavoltus
I
would
think that would
easily
be a good
give
match.
it would be a great matchup. But what about RRC
No,
taking on a
I think,
communist?
yeah, no, I mean, while it would be really funny, it would be very short. Jay would just get frustrated and leave. He'd be like, "This guy's a fucking idiot," and he'd be out. That would
Because
be it.
RRC he's educated too. I mean, I've paid attention enough to understand that the boy is reading, the
Yeah.
boy is paying attention to what's going on. He's out there, he's got his peepers on, he's looking at what's going on.
Yeah.
That would be funny as hell. Um,
It would be really funny, but again, it'd be very, very short.
because I don't think I could see Jay getting one over on RRC. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Somebody else that would be, I would be thoroughly interested to see Seawall go up against him. Jay Edgar,
Ooh, Seawall could be good.
I could almost see Jay Edgar, but I think that Jay Edgar would probably very quickly get frustrated and pissed off with with
Yeah.
with Jay. Just the two personalities, I don't see the mix there happening in the right way. Though, well, yeah, Jay Edgar just wants no government. He just wants total anarchy. I mean,
So does Jay. So, but just in
well,
different ways.
in a way, I guess.
He
But
wants, yeah, no,
there's
he wants.
expectations of what people do, whereas in an anarchist situation, it doesn't matter what anybody does.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
people have to do things in a communist society to contribute to society,
Right.
versus anarchy, where it's just like, you got, I want. But who else was I thinking?
That could be cool though.
Stephen Ignoramus. Stephen Ignoramus could go up against a communist and stand his
Hmm.
own. Do it from Washington, D.C., no less.
I
Dun,
mean,
dun,
maybe
dun.
he could. I think he's too polite, to be honest. I think he would let him get away with too much.
Oh, so you're calling? Are you going to sit here and call him a pussy on air? That's just
No, I'm not.
wrong,
I'm
John.
not doing that. I'm not doing it. No,
So
no,
Steven's a
I'm not
cuck in
Steven,
your
I
opinion.
promise.
Steven's a cuck.
No.
Did you just call Steven out as a cuck? I'm telling. Get
No,
Steven
I would.
Ignoramus in here. Somebody go out in the hall and see if Steven's out
Yeah,
there.
I would only do that if he was here, but
Oh,
he's not
gotcha,
at the moment,
gotcha.
so I won't do that.
I'm running
But
through the list of people in my head that we've
people.
had on. It would be, it would be. Maybe we could reach out to Matt Christensen. I still say Anna Voltis.
That would be awesome.
I want you to
I
reach
might
out
be-
to Anna Voltis and Jay. I really do.
I will. I do want. I will see about Matt Christensen. That's kind of a far
It's a
reaching
reach.
idea, but he does generally accept debates from people. So I don't know, man. That might actually work. If I come at it from the right direction and the right way, it could work.
Mhm.
It could work.
So,
Hmm.
hey, something just popped in my head that I read. There was just a short little blurb on it, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. It was about Steven Crowder, and he was doing a talk somewhere or being interviewed, etc. But he was taking audience questions, and someone in the audience got up and asked him. He said, "Why do you think so much of our younger society is embracing socialism or wants socialism?" And
Mhm.
Crowder said, "Because they haven't lived it."
Yeah.
Now, I thought about that, and I thought about that, and I thought about that, and the first thing that came to mind is, well, in a sense, many of them do live in a socialist society. I mean, we have a lot of socialism that goes on in our society.
We have some socialist programs, but
Sure.
socialism specifically is when the state owns like everything.
Well, I understand what a pure
Towards the end
socialist.
goal, the end
Right.
goal of it.
And
Yeah.
and even but when it's all said and done, nobody's really put forward that level of socialism. Bernie's
Right.
gotten close. Okay, but nobody's put forward that level of socialism coming out of our government. They've just talked about increasing the amount of socialist programs. And
Hmm.
but now when you say that we have socialist programs, we have to think about the scope of those programs as well, as far as how much of the population they cover and encompass, right? Whether you're talking about welfare, which is a certain percentage, or when you look at Social Security as a whole, which encompasses pretty much all of our society, which is again a socialist program. Um, is it because I would argue that they have lived in a socialist, partly socialist society, but is it because we don't acknowledge the socialism of it that they don't understand that we do have socialism in this country?
Well, I mean, I think that you can say that they've lived in socialism in that they're like living with their parents is socialist in a way. If you see parents as government,
Well, sure.
you know, yeah.
I mean, and there's a percentage of those kids that are living under the socialist umbrella of welfare, or that kind of thing, or food stamps, etc., whatever the appropriate term is
Mm,
these days for
most
what
of them
that
are
is.
upper middle class.
What?
You know, most socialists are upper middle class, like college students.
Well, yeah. But so why do you think there is a stronger desire among younger generations for socialism? And aside from his answer that they haven't lived it, because
Yeah.
that's more that doomsayer kind of, because they haven't lived it, they don't know that how much
Well,
hell it
there's
is.
a
But
few reasons. One of them would be colleges. You know, when they're in college, they're being told how great it is, what a great idea it is, that sort of thing. And two, it's easier to just give your life over to the state and have it take care of you, like your parents did for so long, than it is to actually get out there and figure it out for yourself. It's just way easier that way, and I think that's the way that a lot of younger people want to go.
now it's interesting that you say that. Like, for instance, this is what's being taught to them at, they're getting it at college. Is there some real, what's the right word for it?
Indoctrination.
Well, no. It seems like a paradox that institutions that are, you know, I guess, you know, capitalist. Is that the right word? I mean, they're for profit.
Yeah.
If we went to socialist society, like if we went socialist, education would become free. Like these colleges wouldn't be raking
Well,
in money from tuition anymore. They
that's what
would.
they're pushing for is, you know, tuition free college.
The
Which
colleges
I would,
are.
no, no, no. Well, I mean, some of
That's what
them
I'm
are.
saying. The colleges don't
Yeah.
want tuition free college. And they don't want to go to a system where the government is giving them money to stay, where they're, run by the
Seems like they
government.
do. I don't know. They're pushing pushing those students out to go and do protests and stuff for it. I don't know. I mean,
Does that?
seems to me
Can you
like they
see
would be
how it
for
doesn't
that.
seem to make sense to me that a,
Well, I'm not sure because I know that they already get at least state schools already get huge government subsidies.
well, sure, and that's important because as a state, as a city, whether it's a city college, whether it's a state college, you want well-known colleges in your state. You want highfalutin colleges, right? You want to be known
Yeah.
for that. Because it draws people to the state, it draws people to the schools, it draws families to be around the schools, these kind of things. Um, but those schools still want to make money. I mean, they want to make profit unless, I mean, I don't think universities are nonprofit, are they?
To be honest, I don't know that
Um,
much about them. Maybe
but
Midget can tell us if he's still around.
maybe. But when it's all said and done, it seems like an odd thing to be teaching at college. Um, so is it possible that one of the things that are is pushing this socialist idea is also this misconstrued idea about economic inequality from a generational standpoint. Like I've mentioned before, Gen Z sees, wants to lay blame for economic inequality at the hands, at the feet of boomers, but I don't think they're in any position to understand economic inequality because they haven't even really established themselves economically.
Yeah.
But is money a factor in that? Like the idea that if you do go to college, you're going to be left with crushing debt from student loans. I don't want that. I would rather it be socialist and I have free school, right? I mean, is money an impetus behind this idea as well?
I can't see how. I mean, unless the government's going to give them more money than they're already making,
Well,
which
I'm
I
not
doubt.
talking about getting money. I'm just talking about the fear of so much economic pressure as they begin to go out into the world.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's, more to do with, I mean, laziness is one, but just the ease of, it's much easier, like I said,
J.
to,
Ed in the house.
yeah, what's up, Ed?
Don't tell him what I said.
Um, I won't. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, it's just much easier to have someone else take care of you than it is for you to take care of yourself, especially at that age.
Well, so you're a millennial, right? And then you have Gen Z. So tell me how much of this you experienced as you were growing up, and I'm talking teen years through high school and going into
Yeah.
college age years, et cetera, to now. Gen Z is being taught or hearing from a very young age student debt, overwhelming medical costs, the taxes and overwhelming tax burdens, these kind of things. They've been constantly hearing about these major crises between the costs, Medicare, Medicaid, insurance has been the talk for the last 2 decades that they've been alive. So has crushing student loan debt. We've heard more about crushing student loan debt in the last 12 years than any time
Yeah.
before, right? So, and they're facing college. So they're hearing these things. Do you remember like being faced with those realities as you were coming of age? Were these present in your mind?
Um, Not like the crushing student debt. Um, I mean, I remember the whole, because I filled out a couple of, not college applications, but like what's it called? When you try and get like government grants and stuff to go to school.
Right, the grants. Yeah, you've
Yeah, yeah.
student
Not,
loans, not student loans, but Pell grants and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for
Um,
grants.
so I mean, I was gonna have it mostly figured out, but I didn't end up going to college at all. But yeah, so no, that was never really talked about, at least to my knowledge. I mean, but I also wasn't paying much attention to politics at the time.
What about the
So
idea that you were facing, healthcare was going to be like this major thing that you're going to have to deal with, hearing about prescription drug costs and things like this. Was that very present when you were younger? Or is this
no,
something, again, 10, 12, 15 years that we're hearing?
I do remember my dad was like saying I was lucky because it had just changed to where I could stay on their insurance until I was 26. Um, that was I believe that was Obama's thing, where like yeah, a dependent can be on the parents' insurance until they're 26. So I had my parents' insurance until I was 26, and then I had to get my own, which luckily my company offers insurance, so I never had to have Obamacare. But yeah, it wasn't really talked about as far as I know.
Yeah, so I think that there's, it's amazing how between your generation and the Gen Z, there is it seems like such a disparity
Well, I think
between the
more of
two.
Gen Z is paying attention to politics now more than my generation was, at the same age. At least in my experience of my generation, because again, that's a huge, net to cast saying millennials. I mean, because they all have different experiences.
Right.
So I can only just tell my own.
Well, so it begins to, the next thing I begin to think about is, okay, so I'm Gen X, and I understand that a lot of the Gen Z generation can kind of be held accountable in my generation, right? I mean, a lot of us are parents of Gen Z, or latter half Gen Z, that kind of thing. What are the How starkly different is the next generation going to be that is starting, part of which is going to be the children of millennials? Um, are they going? Do you think they'll flow in line in the same mindset as Gen Z? Because I don't know how much the parenting is going to be different between a millennial and those before them,
Yeah,
but because there's a lot of apathy in the millennial generation,
a lot of nihilism as well.
not a lot of nihilism. So I mean, it's interesting to wonder what the generation after Gen Z is going to be like. Um, it makes me curious, and because there is it's so different how Gen Z and the millennials are for being butted right up against each other from a generational standpoint.
Yeah.
Um, I don't get
Well, I
it.
mean, so you have Gen Z is the first generation to grow up entirely with like being online all the time,
Oh, sure,
being
right.
connected to the internet all the time. I was probably 9 or 10.
Hmm.
No, probably even older than that before I went online for the first time. I mean, I was playing computer games at like shit. I was playing Doom when I was like 3.
Right.
Like, so I've been playing video game or Doom or computer games forever. But yeah, I wasn't online until maybe I was 10 or 11, and then I was 12 or 13 when I found 4chan, and then it was just over after that.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
I grew up real quick.
they say a lot of this is, a lot of, or some people will point to the major difference between millennials and Gen Z, and target 9/11 as a key turning point.
Yeah.
It's Gen Z is, one of the first generations in a long time since I guess back in World War II, where their whole life has been wartime, right?
Well, I
We've
mean, I would say Gen X had the Cold War the entire time.
Yeah, but it's I have to say
I
the
mean,
Cold
it's
War is
different.
different than actually being boots on the ground in combat.
I mean, it is different, but it was every day, a new story coming out, new thing
Sure,
to fill you with fear if you allowed it, that
sure,
sort of thing.
and
So,
that was the difference. That was filling with that was, yes, fear and propaganda, whereas they're dealing with, okay, we've just always have somebody somewhere fighting. You know, there's been somebody fighting somewhere my entire life. Active war, people dying, our soldiers coming home dead, hurt, or otherwise. And they've equated Gen Z to, I forget what the quiet generation from back at World War II. That that's the conservative aspect of the two generations is, they say run parallel, because apparently Gen Z is very conservative, which again, I try and balance conservatism and socialism at the same time, which, I mean, how do especially knowing that they're an entitled generation as well, how being entitled, being conservative, and also wanting socialism, those are three very, very diverse points on a spectrum, wouldn't you agree?
well, yeah, I mean, that's why you can't judge an entire generation
Sure.
as one thing because they're all individuals. They're different. They were raised differently with different values. I mean, to say like millennials do this or Gen Xers do this or boomers do that. I mean, memes are all well and good and fun, but it's not indicative of an entire generation.
No, but there's enough of a certain mindset widespread enough through a generation that it does become a defining aspect of the generation. Every generation has that.
Yeah.
There's baby boomers. Their generation was earmarked by, World War II was over. Everybody get to fucking, right? That was kind of the thing. Um,
Then let's do Korea and Vietnam.
you know,
Yay. Yeah.
the silent generation before them, they were very conservative because yeah, we're at war. We're in a major world war. This is, you know, you got to be conservative. I mean, we're talking about a war that nobody even wanted to be in. They were so,
Yeah.
that conservative nature was so deep. They were like, no, fuck, we don't even want to be involved in the war. And a lot of people were upset that we wound up having to get into it, which we were going to anyway. I don't care what anybody says. We would have wound up in that war no
So
matter
one
if
way.
Pearl
Yeah.
Harbor had happened or not. Do what?
So yeah, one way or another.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are defining characteristics of a generation just because, I don't want to say majority rule, but, the larger percentage of, attitude, mindset, etc., is there. Look at your generation. I mean, no, I don't agree that your entire generation is the bottom feeders that they're made out to be, but there's an understanding. I mean, you can, there comes the half track with Jed
Yeah.
in the passenger seat.
I don't know
Um,
if he consents to that, but I guess T-Wall might not be worried about it.
he may have hit him with it and flipped him up into it because it's got an open top.
Yeah, maybe.
So it may be Jed's body. um, yeah, so I've really been thinking a lot about Gen Z, especially two of my daughters are the latter half of Gen Z. They're getting ready to come into it. I don't know. I'm wondering about this socialist mindset. And how many years it's going to take for that ideology that they might be holding to actually start to bear fruit. Um, you know, but one of these days they're going to be making decisions that affect you and I,
Yeah.
and that's going to be your older years. When you really feel even less capable of doing anything about it, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it makes
I'll
you
just be
wonder.
curmudgeonly. It'll be all right. I'm already half curmudgeon anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am. My wife says we're the perfect garden. She's the stunning, beautiful flower, and I'm the grumpy old weed. I'm like, yeah, I get that.
That's cute.
Yeah, whatever.
What a cute analogy.
Um, so yeah, I just want to, Crowder's comment, really sparked a lot of thought in my head about socialism, etc. Um, I don't know how far away we are from a mindset in this country where socialism can take a stronger hold, and I do have a concern that is a direction we're going. It's a weird dichotomy too because I wouldn't complain about free health care. I understand the implications of it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I've heard about it. People have talked about it, read about it, the whole nine yards. But I mean, Jesus, if I could go to the doctor and get things taken care of and it not cost me anything, I would not argue with that. I wouldn't argue if my taxes weren't handled the way they are and it was a fair tax, which some people would say is more of a socialist idea, but I don't really agree with that. I think it's more a libertarian idea. Um, but education. I do believe I am in agreement with the first 2 years of education. This was the original thing that Bernie put out there that I agreed with. The first 2 years of education that normally you, I, or anybody else would go take at a community college, which is the base, those first 2 years are just basic college education that everyone has to have, the required courses and everything. Um,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem with having those first 2 years free from the simple standpoint that I would like a smarter America. I want kids coming out of high school and going and getting more education, especially when high schools are, the current public education system seems to be leaving them a little bit standardized. They need an opportunity to go and expand their thinking. I don't love the idea of what colleges are doing to students. Take that as well, but um, I think that it would make us a smarter country if we had an extra couple of years that were a free option for people to take. More kids would go to college for at least 2 years, I believe, because they're already wanting to stay at home with their parents. So, fuck it, go and get a
Look at
couple
that.
more years of education.
We got Anavoltus in the chat.
Anna Voltas, we want you to
With,
take on a communist.
Yes, we have a communist to take down. And I agree with Seawall. More education does not equal smarter people. It's
No,
true.
no,
There's
I'm
some
not
real
saying.
dumb fucks with some higher
Now, I'm not
education.
saying everybody's going to get smarter from college. What I am saying is I do believe that the educational level of the country as a whole would increase, because if you have 10 kids who weren't going to go to college for 2 years, and even if you had a 60% success rate, if 6 of those kids come out of college smarter than they were and better capable to go into the workforce with some skill set, I'm for that. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying it's a perfect solution, but if the option's there, more people are going to take it, and you are going to have a success rate with it. IQ is 80% genetic. There's no training you can do to increase it. I can agree with that to a certain extent, but having raised children, I can tell you right now, you can definitely affect how smart your child is and where they go from those early years.
Well, that's why you're saying 80%. There's still that extra 20%
Sure.
where it can be.
And you can
lesser.
increase the capability of their intellect by doing things the right way when they're young, especially if you start pushing them early. I start educating. I educated my children, and my granddaughter, who's here now, I start educating them very early. I mean, I was pushing her to walk, not crawl. I pushed her to start speaking, and she's almost at full sentences now. These are important things, and I'm not saying it increases their IQ, but it broadens their learning ability, and I don't know. There's a lot to be said for what you can do with a child in the womb. With my daughter, my 13-year-old, almost 14, when she was in the womb, the entire pregnancy, I would say the same thing to her every night. And sure enough, they learn. They can be conditioned. They can understand things. So when she was born, she came out. She's crying. They go and they put her on the little incubator table. They tell me I can come over. I walk over. I lean down, and I said the same thing to her that I've been saying almost every day in the womb. And the baby shut up. She didn't cry again. She was quiet. She was fine. So there's a lot you can do with kids, but the bottom line is, 2 years of college available, you're going to get some kids that have success with that, and they find something from it. And even potentially go on to more college, which would then feed into the education system, put money into tuition, etc., because they think, okay, now I can go get a degree because I have successfully completed 2 years of college. I'll go and do more. Seawall says, U.S. Army for 100 years has tried to increase IQ. They have failed the entire time. I agree. The Army has not increased their IQ for well over 100 years.
Yeah. Well,
I know what you're saying, but
that's why they say no. They say military intelligence is an oxymoron.
No, when it's all said and done, and if I talk to any kid who's getting ready to come out of high school, I tell them one of two things. I tell them, I say, you either need to go to a community college for 2 years. Don't buy into a full university ride unless you've got a scholarship. Go to community college for 2 years and make sure that you've got the chops to handle college, or join the military. Go in the military for 4 years and have them pay for your 4-year education at college.
Yeah.
You
Not
know,
only that, but you gain skills. You gain, I mean, first of all, self discipline. Um, and you gain a skill depending on what job you have.
now,
You gain some kind of skill with work experience, leadership experience, that sort of thing. Looks great on a resume.
so now Anavoltus says IQ can change significantly in a population in a single generation. Genetics have only a small impact, and
Yeah,
I
we've
can
got a little
agree with
debate
that.
going in the chat. That's
Right.
pretty nice. I like to see
Cameron
that.
says education is among the most important things for humans to acquire. We should
Human.
seek it as if it were water. I agree with that.
How
You should always
profound.
be trying to increase your education, your
Yeah.
knowledge base, right? Sewell says IQ is your potential. It doesn't guarantee success. No, it does not. But the
No, it doesn't.
opportunity opens the
Neither does
door for
misspelling,
success.
by the
Um,
way.
but opportunity does open the door to success. That we have to agree on. I would think. IQ methodology from Anavoltus says has changed a lot in 100 years. That's true. I mean, even IQ understanding, like the way we used to test, was always culturally biased. Was a
Yeah.
big thing that's always been a problem with IQ tests. Seawall says we need trade schools, not college, and I can agree with that. But to a certain extent, yes, we need trade schools, but not in lieu of college. What I believe is that there are certain individuals who will benefit more from a trade school, but those students used to be, once upon a time, they were targeted in the early levels of education, seventh, eighth grade. If the student was having trouble in school, the suggestion was made to go to trade school. And yes, those should be there as the same option as 2 years of college. I would thoroughly be behind that. But I don't see trading one for the other because outside of the ideology that colleges may be teaching, there's a lot of education, and one of the
Yeah.
things that college can do is broaden your mind, broaden your horizons, and broaden your thinking. I mean,
If they allow you to, but
sure,
instead of just indoctrinating you.
sure.
But also, I mean, however useless they might be, we still need intellectuals.
Yes. And when it's all said and done, when I went to college, I went to two. I got my AA at a community college here in Florida, and when I walked in the doors of that college, I didn't walk in with some idea of what I wanted to do. I had a history in restaurants, whether all the way from the bottom all the way to the top. I had managed. I'd done all of it, but I walked out of that with a knowledge of writing, a desire to interact with communication. I like to write. I like to edit. I like to proof. I like to be involved with that process. And I didn't really have any inkling that that's something that I would want to do before I walked in the door at college. And it was all about a teacher who really opened my eyes to it and spotted something that I was capable of doing and nurtured that. Now, that's not to say every student's going to get that, but these are the things that happen in college, which can be great for some people. It puts them on a path to, with ambition, with motivation to get somewhere and accomplish something. Seawall says, I would defund the humanities almost completely along with art, science, and engineering only. Wow.
Yeah, see, I don't agree with that. I think you need more than just science and
Yeah.
engineering.
See, the humanities are,
No, humanities are largely useless. I mean,
no, they're not. You're telling
that's
me
your
art
women's
is,
studies. No, I'm not saying art. I'm saying humanities.
well, art is part of humanities. Like when you study humanities, you
Isn't it
study
just liberal
everything.
arts?
What?
Isn't it just liberal arts?
No, whenever
It's
I was
arts.
in humanities, I was studying people like what's his name, Dali and Van Gogh and the Impressionists and everything. It depends on how
So
far
again,
you
useless.
humanities. As you go deeper into humanities, yes, they cover lots of things, but the basic humanities are the arts and things like this. And I'm sorry, but I don't care what anybody says. We need entertainment. Whether it's visual art, whether it's
Oh,
whether it's
absolutely.
written art, whatever it is, we need things that spur our imagination. Because when everything's just technical, that's not spurring imagination. Some of the greatest tech minds out there, I bet, there's got to be a few of them that got inspiration from watching Star Wars,
Oh
Star
yeah, no,
Trek, things
absolutely.
like this, right? Or even, I mean, some of the people who are marketing and things like this, they got inspiration from looking at artists like Van Gogh and Picasso and drawing inspiration and these ideas that I want to create like that. I can do this. I think humanities are very important, and I don't love anyone or any system that wants to defund those things or take those away, because children need that imagination.
Yeah.
They need it. That it spurs so much creativity whenever you have those things available. I mean, even the
Now
simple act of finger painting in kindergarten,
this is kind of funny because Cameron says history is the subject, and Sewell said teaching history is one thing, getting a degree in it is another. Which is funny because like if I had gone to college, a history degree, what I would have gone for.
Now, as Sewell says, overeducating a population has serious issues, and I can agree with that. Remember, I'm not saying required 2 years of college. What I'm saying
No,
is
just
that
give
the
the option.
opportunity is available for people to have that if they want it. And I know if it was available for free, more people would take advantage of it. One is overqualified workers lead to unhappy workers. Well, trust me, nobody's going to be overqualified after the first 2 years of college. You don't come out of that with anything but basic understanding of, a higher level understanding of math, literature, these kind of things. You're not coming out of there with any degree making stuff except an AA degree, which says you're functional. you know. History is the most important subject. Yes, history is important. It's not the most
Well,
important.
yeah, that's what I read that one. I
Um,
don't think it's the most important one, but it's my favorite. So
it's one of those that is necessary so that we can see the mistakes we've made in the past. We can see what has been successful, and then we can build upon those two things as we move forward. But if you don't have the creativity to move forward, you don't create new history.
well, I mean, as the History Channel says, history made every day.
Right. But if you don't have creative people, history kind of
God,
gets
it's
stagnant,
fucking
right?
man, it really went downhill.
What?
History Channel
Whatever.
it used to be my shit. I used to love the History Channel, and then
Uh,
I
so
started
see,
doing like Ice Road Truckers and like whatever the log one was, a loggers one. I forget what that one was called, but like oh man, and then the Ancient Aliens thing, which was fun, but I don't think that belongs in the History Channel.
um, now Cameron says humans don't need to teach history or get a degree in history. They simply need to understand history. But the
And
only way
hang on,
for
I want to
someone,
address something about that real quick because he keeps saying humans, which coincidentally seems to dehumanize humans, even though he's using the word human.
yeah,
And kind of
well,
like it kind of takes like an objective look at it, like as if you're a faraway observer, like not part of human, but saying, "Oh yeah, humans over there," like you would say, "Oh yeah, dogs need this,"
I think I
you know what I
think
mean?
that
I
what
don't know.
I
It's just
think
something
what
weird to
Cameron
me.
is trying to establish is he wants to subliminally plant the idea in people's minds that he's one of the lizard people.
Well, he probably is.
So he takes a third person view of humans as a
I have noticed that his
species, like
eyes
we're his
closed.
petri dish, his
Yeah,
third eye,
his eyes closed that way. Like,
right? He says humans don't need. So he said that don't need to teach history. But the thing is, you can't just simply understand history unless someone teaches you how to understand history. And by doing that, they need to teach you history. So yeah, you need to teach history. If you, just go to any apocalyptic film. One of the biggest things that's most important, I'll give you what was it, Mad Max. I mean, it's holding on to the histories, the storytellers that tell you, and help rebuild a civilization because, it's this idea. Yes, history is
yeah,
important to teach. It must be passed on. Not only the understanding, but the facts, the things, the details of history, so that we know
yeah.
what we came from and
Well,
what, like I
see,
said, what we did wrong.
I mean, he's even saying, you don't need to teach history, but how do you learn history? Like you were saying, unless someone teaches you, even if you like, educate yourself and read. Well, that's the author teaching you through the medium of the book. You know what I mean? That's still someone teaching you history.
Right,
There's no way to learn history without someone teaching you in one way or another.
right. Seawall says, Anna Volta says, have you ever tried turning a human into a real life Arson Boldo painting?
I don't know what that is. So
You had to be there.
I guess so.
Seaval says creativity can't be taught, only skills to express it. But still, skills to express it, which is something that's got to be taught, right? I mean, to a certain extent. I have a stepdaughter who's an amazing artist, and she went to art classes, and she walked away from them saying, they taught me things. Even though she's a fantastic artist, she has an amazing amount of creativity and skill with painting and drawing and all of it. But she learned things about her talent and her creativity that she could fine tune. Um, he says, and those skills in history were often taught informally or taught in private institutions, of course, but we don't live in a society where we can just do informal education anymore.
I mean, that's how I learned most things. Most of the things I know, I did not in school.
Right. But there's this idea. I mean, informal education is like, okay, you got somebody at home to teach you. Well, no, mom and dad are both out work. Grandma and grandpa are probably working too. Where do you,
Yeah.
who are you going to send your kid to? The best option is school. Otherwise, they're homeschooling, and you got to trust that somebody's informally giving them the right education, or if somebody is, they're doing it, whatever. I mean, our society isn't conducive to, you know, passing
Yeah,
it
it's
along this
unfortunate.
way,
That would be ideal,
especially not
but
in a digital world. It would be, it's nothing. Everything's informal in the digital world, but informal to the nth degree of oh my god, you know. Um,
yeah.
Cameron says, I'm not a faraway observer. I'm self aware of my humanity. We are all humans. Calling humans humans is perhaps the least dehumanizing thing possible.
See, I
Um,
disagree.
it
And,
does
and like
it
it
does
comes,
make you sound like you're third personing yourself from the human
yeah,
race, and
and like
thus making us less than you because we're human.
not only that, but like yeah, like skin deep. It seems not dehumanizing, but yeah, like we're saying, when it's like you're like a third party. I don't know, like we're under your microscope. I like it. Get me out.
Seawall
Yeah,
says,
am I
but
being pain? Get me out.
he says, but ethnic studies does next to nothing for society. And how easy is it for a centralized institution to teach you the proper way to interpret
Yeah,
history and lead to book burning? Um, you
which
know,
is happening again.
sure.
They were just burning. Whose book was it they were burning? I forget. But there were a bunch of howling feminists that were burning some book or another. Can't remember. It was stupid though. But yeah,
Um, you know,
forget who it was.
but I will say this. Back in the, yeah, I've seen the bullshit with book burning and everything. That kind of thing went on in my. You want to grow up in the Midwest in the 60s, 70s, that kind of thing. Those kind of, yeah, people do that shit. I remember things like, what was uh, there was a book I remember that we had books being pulled from our library that, and I remember my brother checked out a book by, I think it was Isaac Asimov, which was a very controversial book. And it actually got taken away from him when he went to check it out because I guess they hadn't realized that they still had a copy of it or whatever. But he wasn't able to check it out. I believe if that was it him. I think it was him or it was a friend. But anyway, so it was like taboo. There were these taboo books, and I remember whenever I left the school and went to high school in Georgia from Oklahoma, one of the first things I did was go to the library and look uh, for. And God, the name is escaping me, but of course it was there, and I was like, okay, cool, I got to get this book. I want to check and see what it's all about. And it really wasn't anything. It was science fiction. It was,
Yeah.
but a lot of that out there, and in those times, it's rooted in religion. It's rooted in this Christian fundamentalism. That has a lot to do with it. Now, these days, of course, it's going to have a lot to do with anger and hate and activism, fascism, whatever you want to call it.
Well, it's gonna have to do with what Sewell's currently talking about in the chat. Is that anything that goes against the narrative they're trying to set up is verboten, and it must go. That's why people get canceled when they say the wrong things.
Sure.
That's why people are instantly shunned and called Nazi or bigot or whatever. Anytime they present facts that go against the narrative. which is the most important thing to them.
Um, he says, Rob, currently they teach that Whitey has always been the bad guys of history, that they invented slavery. Well, technically, no, they didn't invent slavery,
No,
but we here in America, we took part in it. So
yeah,
bad guy.
but you
We
know
get
who? But you know
we
who
get
is?
the bad guy mark for that because we shouldn't have given in to that.
Well, that might be true, but I think it's canceled out by the fact that we were the first people in history to end slavery, at
and
least in the
and so
West.
and so we get to balance. Sure, we get a good mark for ending it. But now that's not to say it was ended peaceably, right? It wasn't. It didn't just go off
In
quietly into
most
that good night. But
in most Western countries, it did. The U.S. was different,
right.
but in most of Western Europe, it did end like through legal action rather than a war.
Um, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say that if I look through back through history, um, or is the white race the only barbaric race out there? No, it's not. But by God, even in this country alone, we've done some pretty barbaric fucking things to get by and
I mean,
to
it's no
make our
different than
place in
any
this
other
world. No, I'm not
civilization
saying
in
it's any
history.
different from anywhere else. I'm just saying it's true. So if we sit and we paint a picture that, yeah, we were slavers. Yes, we took this country from anybody that was living here. Yes, there were horrific things done to people that were living on this land, even though those people did horrific things to the people who were encroaching or colonizing this country. I understand it went both ways. Um, there were bad things that happened, and I'm not going to lie. I don't want to hear him saying that it was just white people doing it, because at points of this barbaricness that we've had in this country, it's not just been white people, it's been the American population. There's been all creeds and colors involved with that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason that it's like Siwa was saying, it's taught in schools that Whitey is the only bad guy, and I think it's just because it's more recent than most of the other, um, atrocities. At least we have a very Americentric, point of view here, and so we tend to focus on American history. And yeah, Sewell's completely right. No one's a good guy in history.
Right.
Everyone's got some bullshit that they did.
Sure.
Everybody. I don't care
And I
who it
agree with
is.
that
All
completely.
of them have it.
But I would put it out there. He says, and yet the schools teach that Whitey is the only bad guy.
Yeah.
And I will say, of course, we have to have this PC culture, unfortunately, that impacts that. I get that. But
Yeah, it's like
I
if you
will.
were victimized once, that means that you've never done anything wrong through history, and you've always been a victim no matter what.
Right.
And it's not the truth at all.
I mean, but I will say this. I mean, in the history of this country, it's only been 100 years of this country's being here that women have actually had a voice in this country. It's we
I
were
mean, that's not true because even before they could have, they were
the
the
vote
main
is what
cause
I'm
of.
talking about, John.
I know, but even before that, they were the main cause of alcohol prohibition going into effect.
Okay, but anyway, they got the
But
vote
I mean,
100
that's
years.
huge.
So to my point, up until 100 years ago, it was the white establishment making the rules in this country.
Yeah.
And up until when did we start seeing our first black politicians? We kept that at bay. So, this
Yeah,
idea
probably
that
70s or 80s,
right. So
I would say, yeah.
we're talking about the underlying fact that for the bulk of this country's history, it has been a white male hierarchy that has run the country. It's not a lie. It's not fake news. It's just it existed. So, it's not like we've done a lot of evolving in the last 60, 70 years, right? I mean, there's been a lot of change in that to where everything's broadened out. But yeah, a lot of what this country did as a country being made by decision makers, yeah, sad to say that was white power in power. You know what I mean? I mean, we can't argue that fact, can we?
Right, but I mean, it was also white men in, England doing the same thing, white men in France doing the same thing, white men in Germany doing the same thing, white men in, name a country and Europe. You know what I mean? And it was white men calling the shots. It doesn't, and they're vastly different cultures. I mean that white men inherently, you know, cause atrocities or anything.
Well, and I'm not agreeing that that's okay to teach. I'm just the point I'm trying to make is that historically in this country alone, most of the decisions from a country standpoint, from a governmental standpoint, this kind of thing has been predominantly made by the white culture in this country. Like I said, it's the last 60, 70 years that has been changing. But, I'm not saying it's okay to teach it. I'm just saying there's a foundation there that they can springboard off of and make Whitey the bad guy.
Right, but what they do instead is say, instead of saying, oh, I mean, sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, we need more black and brown, especially women in government. All they do really is just, say the white man is your enemy. You know what I mean? As opposed to trying to teach, living together and, that sort of thing. They're just, well, white man's the enemy because history. And there's more to it than just the color of your skin. There's way more to history. It's way more
Well,
complex
I
than the
understand.
color of someone's skin.
I understand that, but in a racially divided country, in a gender divided country, in an ideologically divided country, that nobody's going to see that. Everybody's going to see it from a slanted perspective. And I don't agree with schools capitulating to that and changing the narrative of history. Like, I don't want slavery glossed over from either side. I want the truth to be told. I don't want
Well, exactly. We want truth to be told,
sure,
not one-sided narrative of
sure,
history. And
but
it's always way more complicated than what people say.
of course, but even if we talk about the issue of slavery, most of those decisions that were being made about slavery were not being made by slaves, right? Those they didn't have a voice, they didn't
No,
have an
I
opinion,
know.
and of course
Yeah.
it's a specific race that talks about on both sides. Um, it's sad that they have the fundamental foundation to build these things off of and direct the narrative that way. And I agree, Seawall. Our society is decaying because of the way we're educating. It has become that way. I would posit it out there that how much of this has to do with government being bought. it's, it's our government is the source of the decay and corruption in this country. If you ask me, they're tearing down the Constitution. They're slowly eroding our rights and taking those away.
I see,
And
Cameron. Yes, again, that's true, but it's way more complicated than the person's skin color. Do it's like it's not like white people are not a monolith. Like white people think this way, and that's how they think. That's not how it has to do with the actual person's character, their education, their goals, aspirations, whatever. That's what it has to do more with than there's.
well, any group that wants to talk about the white man in this country is going to come from the perspective, and I'll use feminists, the abortion issue. So many feminists are like, why should men have a say in this in the first place? They have no idea what they're not, they shouldn't have a say on abortion, right? Very far fetched thinking, but there is that mindset among them, and
Which
others
is
have the same
completely
things,
stupid.
right? It's
'Cause it's like, well, then you need to shut up when you're talking about that. You don't know. You know what I mean? Like when you're talking about male suit, you need to because you don't know what you're talking about.
your mic is cutting
You know
out
what I
for some
mean?
reason.
Is it?
It's choppy. It's a little choppy. I don't know why. But you're
I'm being censored. I'm
maybe
being censored. Saying the wrong things. But am I still choppy?
you're fine. It's coming and
Okay.
going. It wasn't major yet.
Okay.
Um, and I agree, Seawall, it has to do with a large government. It has to do with government overreach, but it also has to do
Yeah.
with corporate power in government. I mean, You have entities that control culture as well. So, for instance, let's look at big tobacco. Look at the impacts big tobacco has had on culture throughout the years, right? And their their money buys them power in Washington, buys legislation, this, that, the other. We know how lobbying works, um, but you know,
And I agree with Sewell here about men should have a say because you'll charge them for child support without being involved. Absolutely.
oh,
I
absolutely
mean,
too. I
yeah,
agree. Men should
if
have
you're
a
allowed,
say.
yeah, if you're allowed to have an abortion, then I should be allowed to walk away
Sure.
from the child without paying child support or having it with obviously with the agreement that no contact with the child.
Right. And and and
If you waive that away, then that's
And
fair.
the irony is, or incidentally, I should say, I even feel that when it comes down to a woman is deciding to have an abortion or to keep the child, I think the man should have a say in that as well. He should be able to vote for abortion and say, "I believe you should get an. I would like you to get an abortion. I don't want to have this child," because the burden is on both of them for to have in having the child, right? I
Yeah.
mean, even
Well, I
though
mean,
she's got to carry it, I get
I
it.
think it's a decision that both need to reach together. There doesn't really need to be government intervention for that part, but when it comes to child support, if she does decide to keep the child but still wants abortion, then he should be allowed to walk away. No strings attached, but also you don't get contact with the child
Sure.
because you waived that right. I mean, I think that's fair.
Well, it's I have to say that just on a side note, the way that child support and custody, this is an interesting one to me because um, when it's all said and done, that is still being handled on a very archaic mindset. Like the majority of these cases still lean towards to the mother's benefit.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah, it's when it's a mother involved, it doesn't it didn't matter that I was a stay-at-home parent when it came to the divorce. If a woman was a stay-at-home parent, she gets child support, she gets alimony, she moves and she goes on. It moves on with her life. If the father's a stay-at-home parent, the wife gets the children, she gets the child support, and the father gets
yeah.
not to be
And
the primary caregiver anymore.
what Sewell's saying is, I believe that you created a lot of had no creation. And yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'm
Sure.
life is. What I'm saying is, if there is going to be legal abortion, then that's how it should be run. There has a choice. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we should just let people have abortions all the
Well, I'm still of a mind that if
Also,
abortion should be available. Do what?
I said I also agree with Ed.
I tend to prefer when AOC isn't talking and her mouth is being used for other purposes, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I think I am 100% pro-abortion, and the reason I say that is this. Um, while I my mind changed later on. Um, there are children I know that grow up in this world and in this in this country, in this world, that if you ask them, they would rather have been aborted than go through the hell they're going through in their life through their childhood. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live through my childhood again. I mean, there were many times where I was like, if I had had a choice, I would have opted to have been aborted than go through what I went through in my life. I don't want, if you're going
Yeah,
to be
but
if you're not going to be a perfect parent or a good parent, if you, I don't know, there's a self awareness that's got to
if you
happen.
had you had been aborted, you couldn't do this show.
That's not necessarily true. It
I think it
depends.
is.
It depends on. It depends. It depends on your spirituality, John. I would have just been in another. It would have still been me. I would have probably just gone into another. Somewhere
But
down the
you wouldn't
road.
be
I might.
you.
I might actually be the
Wouldn't be.
millennial, and you would be the Gen Xer.
But you wouldn't be you.
No.
That's
Maybe.
yeah. You need you.
But I'm just
Not
saying, if
some other faux Robert.
there are a lot of people out there that opt to have the kid, and they really shouldn't have. They should have given it up for adoption or something. But I just see too many things that happen to children, and it's just like, You know,
Yeah.
we need to license people to have children, in my opinion.
I
I'm not lying.
don't. No, I know, but I don't think you can.
No, I know you can't,
Horrible.
but it's that
Like that.
it's thoroughly something that needs to be done. I mean, if you really wanted to make sure that you had a something closer to normal population that wasn't just chaotic and fucking nasty, yeah, yeah, you control the birth
Yeah.
you control the birth rate and who does it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
How
yeah,
about you can only
we
get an abortion if you get sterilized, since you are admitting you are irresponsible and something must be paid for having to stoop to something so immoral. Um, well, you
well, hang
know.
on. After this one though, we gotta get going. I have to be up at.
Oh, are we past our time? I
Oh,
hadn't
we're
even.
well
Oh,
past.
we're
Yeah.
wow. You should have said something sooner.
Well, it
Just
was
a
a good
point.
good conversation.
Yeah. See, to what you said, Seawall, I can kind of agree with that to a certain extent, but understand, you know, morality. The thing about morality is it's completely subjective, and that's the part we have to take with a grain of
Yeah.
salt when we talk about issues like abortion.
And that's
Morality is
something I would really like to
subjective.
debate. I would really like to debate that with. We know a few people are a little believe in objectivity, and I would really like to, pick their brain about get to the.
Are
Because
you
I
touching your mic cord at all?
maybe.
All right, so try and sit completely still while you talk.
Oh, I'm not. There's no way I can see the ADD in me.
Well, you're gonna have to
But I'll
try
try
for.
and not put the mic. Yeah, or the mic cable. That might be what it is.
But yeah,
But anyway, yeah,
that would be an interesting debate to have. Morals are one of those things where I'm like, don't come at me with your morals, because when it's all said and done, they're subjective from one
yeah. But you
person
can
to the
still
next.
pick out which one is the best for people.
No, you
I mean,
can't.
that's really the best you can do.
Yeah, but then that's you might that's
J.
that's
Edgar,
what
you
you.
don't have the balls to touch my mic cord.
Um,
You don't have
I
a
don't.
hair on your ass.
I mean,
Can't touch my.
isn't like having having some moral, overarching moral compass decreed the same thing as big government. I mean that's how I
Right.
see it. It's like you can't tell me what my morals should be. You just can't because you
Well,
don't know.
let's.
It's two different situations. But anyway,
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say
anyway,
let's address that another time.
yeah. Let's. You want to start a new stream in about a half an hour?
Hell no,
All right.
I'm going
Uh,
to bed.
yeah, you're a big baby. Oh, never
Yeah,
mind. I want to get to bed too. My wife's home.
there you go.
So if you like what you're hearing, please hit the like button. If you don't like what you're hearing, please hit the like button. We also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. In case you haven't noticed, Christmas is coming for the Gen Gap. It's coming a little earlier
Yeah.
than everybody else. We're going to be seeing it in about 3 to 4 weeks on December the 6th as we do our
Yep.
12-hour live stream, the Generational Gap first annual holiday charity stream for Toys for Tots. Hopefully, we can get some live debates going on. John's going to crack the whip on himself and start drumming up some debate possibilities.
Yep.
But anything that people want to bring to the table, we'll make it a potluck, a streaming potluck. If you want to bring something to the table and jump on the stream, and try and rip us a new asshole, or prepare to have yourself one, please do so. Outside of that, John, where can they find us, please?
Yes, you can find us on Twitter at the Gen Gap P. You can find us on Discord down below. If you haven't joined our Discord server, please do so. It's a lot of fun. And then also you can find us. What is it like? D Live, Periscope,
Uh,
Mixer,
Picardo,
Picarto,
Smashcast,
Smashcast,
Twitch.
yeah, all that nonsense. Um,
We're on 6, hopefully,
we're on a whole
right
bunch.
now.
Other links are down below, right?
Just this is the primary for YouTube and D Live. I haven't broadened out into the others till
Okay,
I've had a good cross sample and make sure that we're coming across well and we haven't been
fair enough.
deplatformed in the interim.
And you can also find us on freedomscoop.com, which is awesome. And we have some merch also linked down below with our promo code, so you can get 15% off of our shirt. Or, I mean, I guess somebody else's shirt too, but ours is better. And you should use our promo code, not Eds.
Right? We don't like it.
No, we like Ed. We just don't
When
like
he
his
puts
promo
his
code.
promo code in our chat. That's the only time we don't like you, Ed. No.
That's right. No, we like him. We just don't like the promo code. That's all.
Right? He's a
No,
horrible
I'm
one.
just
It should be
kidding.
spelled
You
Jim
can put
Gap.
your promo code in our chat. That's fine.
What a guy.
I know,
Right.
right? I
All
don't want
right,
to be
so-
too mean to Ed when he's not here to defend himself.
So,
He's not on the stream
John,
with us.
unless you've got anything to add, I'd like to thank the audience for coming by. John, thanks for the rousing chat. Seawall, good talking to you.
Yeah.
You had a lot to throw out there. Cameron, good throwing yours out there as well, even though you think you're better than the rest of us humans. Humans.
Lowly humans. Yeah.
Humans. But let's get the hell out of here, John. We'll be back on Friday for our regular stream at 8:30 Eastern time, and then we'll also be coming back again next Monday night with our regular Shootin' the Shit episode as well. So stay tuned for those, and outside of that, keep on talking. We'll be in Discord. Maybe we'll carry this on. Outside of that, peace, John. I'm out.
Yep. See you guys.